So I want to talk a little bit about intimacy
Okay.
because we live in a society where there is a lack of intimacy. There's a
Mhm.
lack of intimacy with God. There's a lack of intimacy with ourselves. And then because of that, we have a lack of intimacy with others. A lot of us don't really, we have a fear of intimacy. We avoid intimacy, or we just literally don't know how to create intimacy. And the things that are required to create intimacy scare us. And so we avoid those things altogether. Right. And in a religious community, a lot of people are not taught how to have intimate relationship with God. They're
Yeah.
taught how to have a performative relationship with God. So I
Yeah.
want to talk about intimacy for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So intimacy is welded in the wrestle.
I like that.
Intimacy is welded in the wrestle. A lot of us don't know how or don't want to wrestle with God because we misjudge, we falsely judge wrestling with God as being rebellious or being disobedient. But it's not. And I'm going to give you a biblical example as to why. Actually, I just was listening to a sermon 2 nights ago by one of my current favorite pastors. He's been one of my favorite pastors for a couple of years now. Um, Damon Thompson out of Mobile, Alabama, who pastors a church called Homestead. I've legit considered moving down to Mobile, Alabama just to be a part of this church.
Oh
Not
my
going to lie.
gosh.
But I love this man's testimony and I love the fruit of his ministry and I love the way that he teaches from the scriptures. This man has a pulse on where we are going. And I feel very much in alignment with him in the spirit realm. So I love to listen to Damon Thompson because when I start questioning if I'm wrong and going crazy, I listen to him and I'm like, nope, it's okay. This is where we're going, you know? So he's like a big brother to me, though he doesn't even know that I exist. I really look up to him and his teaching makes me think that I'm not crazy. And then I have a few others that are just, they're pioneers. They're further along. They really see where the church is going. They see the falsities that we've been living under and they're voices that are they're calling the true church, the true ecclesia forward. So he was teaching on Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who then later was renamed Israel.
Mhm.
Jacob has this moment in his story where it says that Jacob was alone with himself and he wrestled with a man. And a lot of people, my whole life, even in my own reading, I always thought he was wrestling with God.
Yeah.
But what I never realized until Damon Thompson pointed it out to me 2 nights ago is that it says Jacob was alone and he wrestled with a man.
Mm.
And after the wrestling match, he wrestles for his blessing. After he wrestles an entire night with this man, who is this man, right? His hip gets knocked out of socket a little bit through the wrestle. And he calls that place because remember, the Israelites were Israelite people, God's people were always called to create altars of remembrance. When God does something significant in our lives, we're called to create an altar of remembrance so that we never forget what God did. And and Jacob calls that place Peniel. And Peniel means to see the face of God. That's why people think, oh, he wrestled with God because he saw the face of God. Okay.
Mm.
But what Damon Thompson taught, which I thought, oh my gosh, not only does this make sense intellectually, but I personally can relate with this, is that Jacob was wrestling with himself.
Yeah.
Jacob had two men. He had Jacob, and after he wrestled, he was given a new name by God, and God named him Israel. And
Oh.
there was a wrestling match between Jacob, the supplanter, the conniver, the manipulator, the deceiver, Jacob, and Israel, the promised chosen nation of God.
Mm.
There was a wrestling match. Jacob was alone and he wrestled with a man. He wrestled with himself. And when he came out of that wrestling match, he saw the face of God because he saw the face of God in his new man. He saw the face of God in Israel. And so he called that place Peniel because it means the face of God. Side note, there's a gland right here in your brain, right here, that is called the pineal gland. And in New Age communities, they call it the third eye. But the pineal gland is the part of the brain that connects us with the spirit realm.
Mm.
100%.
Wow.
Okay. So Jacob was alone and he wrestled with a man and he saw the face of God and he was renamed Israel. He received his new identity. He received his promised inheritance in that moment of wrestle. Intimacy grows through tension. Jacob was renamed Israel. Israel literally means those who wrestle with God.
Wow.
So if we are, through Christ, brought into the family of God, God's chosen people, then part of our relationship with God is to wrestle with him. We can't produce intimacy with God without a wrestle. I went through a little bit of a wrestling match a week ago with the guy that I'm dating. It was a power struggle. We were like for a couple of days, just first fight. But you know what? You know what came out on the other side of that? A deeper understanding of each other, a deeper security that, oh my gosh, we actually can work through things and grow through things together. You know what was welded out of that wrestle that I shared with the guy that I'm dating was a deeper measure of intimacy. And you know, a lot of people are like, Tana, you have such an intimate relationship with God. You hear his voice. You're so unapologetically yourself. You have such an authentic connection with God. It's because I have wrestled with God. I'm still wrestling with God. I'm wrestling with God about several things in my life right now.
Right.
Because it's through the wrestle that intimacy is welded. And so if you want intimacy with God, if you want intimacy with yourself, if you want intimacy with others, we have to get good at learning how to wrestle things out. And that means we can't depend on a formula.
Yeah.
We can't look at external things to tell us how to do our life. We have to be willing to wrestle through the internal to reconnect us with that wisdom and that intuition and that deep knowing.